Right.
All
I
right.
changed
So
my
what exactly are we ranting about before we
We're,
start?
okay, so
Star
you've
Wars.
obviously been keeping you're in the know. You know that Marvel has fired people and Disney is firing people, and
Yeah.
you watch The Mandalorian and been watching. You're a Star Wars fan, and you know how unified that fan base is in the face of new product.
God, I hate the worst thing about Star Wars is the Star Wars fans.
So let's what I really want to do is just talk about what is wrong with Disney.
All right.
So
No, I mean, there's plenty to talk about. They're not perfect at all.
Can we talk? Can we agree that there's something rotten in Disney Mark, if you will?
There was. I mean, there's obviously things going on, and the way they do things upset certain people. But I mean, I understand most of their moves. When they make a move, I kind of understand it. I don't like it, but I kind of understand
I don't like it. Okay, no, that's fair. Let's start.
Go ahead. I mean,
let's start with the easy one. We changed CEOs.
Yep, had to.
Which, in light of what's happened since, the argument can be made, and I've seen it made both ways, that maybe Chapek wasn't actually that bad because he was undoing all of the stuff that Iger was trying to do, and now Iger is trying to say that Chapek was doing all the stuff that he was dealing. I don't know. So anyway, that's one. They changed their CEO on a Sunday night during an Elton John concert. That's a corporate red flag as far as I'm concerned.
Sure, and I'm pretty sure that Chapek was a patsy.
Yes, he was definitely an Oswald.
Well, I have a feeling he was thrown in there. Are we recording? We
are recording.
I didn't hear an intro or anything, so
no, we're talking.
All right. I feel like they knew some unsettling business was coming down the pike. Iger's not stupid. I think Iger's actually a very bright guy, but he saw that there was going to be some troubled waters, and here's a chance for me to bail out and let the second guy take all the heat for all the crap that I've done.
Right.
And then as soon as Chapek proved that he wasn't up to the task, because he was doing some stupid things as well, they begged Iger to come back, and he just swooped in, and now he's the hero. So I think it's a political move by Iger that he said, oh, this was going to be a rough patch. COVID helped him out quite a bit to make him look great. And Chapek looked like, what am I doing? But I think it was one of these things where a rough patch was coming. Iger threw Chapek under the bus with the promise of a CEO knowing that, he could always come back.
Yeah, and which, he did, like him or hate him. Iger is in fact back. So let's talk about what's happened since. Now, Marvel had a shakeup.
Yep.
Victoria Alonso. Now, depending on which side of the, I don't know if I've told you what I call them, the hate industry on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much the internet.
Right. Well, but there it feels like there's actually a cottage industry on YouTube that is nothing but hate.
Oh yeah, that's how they generate clicks. Got to get those advertisers going,
right,
so they make money.
Well, what and the reason I know about them and I do watch them is because I watch them for the information and then discount them for a lot of the editorializing. It's much like talk radio. You listen for the things and then tune out when they start editorializing on you. So as much as that's a hate industry, they're not wrong a lot of times. You just look at them and what they're saying, and then you look what happens. You're like, well, they weren't wrong about how certain things happen.
But they also aren't necessarily right either. I think it's a very biased.
It is.
It's like
in a lot of ways.
Like talk radio. If you wanted to listen to, and thankfully he's not here around anymore, Rush Limbaugh. If you listen to him, how he presents it makes it sound, yeah, that's right. It sounds right because he's only giving you certain information. And so, like with Victoria, we all know about the visual effects situation where
right,
they were prioritizing certain things over another, overworking them. Conditions were crap. Pay was crap. And I think she had to go at some point because she was building such bad roads.
Relations.
With the visual.
And that's not even why they fired her.
No, but that's
why
not.
they fired her.
No.
So
That is why they fired her, but they found a loophole
right.
that she actually abused.
Well, I, firing for if you're doing a crappy job, that's grounds for firing. So if you're doing a crappy job running the visual effects, that's grounds for firing. So again, you start getting into all this. It's like, well, they could have just fired her for that, or they could have reassigned her duties, or
But that would be admitting that they are mistreating everybody, and they don't want to do that. So if they,
well, they already admitted that. That's why they had what announced they were building an in-house visual effects.
But they wanted to make it a smoother transition. Yeah, again, it's all Disney speak. They don't want to say, yeah, we abuse these guys and we use them, we underpay them, so we're going to bring it in-house so we can treat them better. No.
So you can treat them in-house, underpay them and whatnot. Yeah, but again, either way, they would. It all plays into the rest of it. Now, if you buy into the woke house cleaning, which whatever, if you buy into that she's a woke head, why aren't the rest of the people that you identify, I say you, that and you, the royal you, why aren't the rest of those people gone? If it's a woke house cleaning, so you can't use that argument.
No, because it's
necessary. I mean,
it's Disney. Disney is going to be as inclusive as possible because it's good business. This whole woke business is crazy because all they're doing is going, hey, look, we have a very diversified audience. To go with just one is to exclude all the others, and so it's no big deal to add these. They've been doing it for decades.
So that's Marvel's big. Well, that was one of Marvel's big shakeups. Then we lost Ike Perlmutter, who had been running Marvel Studios until about 2015, I believe is the date. And they split Marvel Studios off from Marvel Entertainment and put Ike back in charge of comics and merchandise, but not movies. And that's when Feige went to the top of Marvel Studios.
Perlmutter wanted to get rid of Feige. And you don't get rid of your golden goose because of all the things that are going right, Feige is the one that's the least spinning the most plates and making the least amount of plates crash.
Well, we'll talk about that track record for Marvel here in a minute, because if Feige's going to take the credit for everything up to 2015, he's got to answer for anything after Ike leaves.
But Perlmutter, I don't get upset when an 80-year-old CEO is forced retirement because
well, not in general, no. But if you look at specific CEOs and you say, well, you know what? They're on top of their game. They have a grasp of the business. They're making sound decisions. Perlmutter seems to have been doing that.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are in the business have a lot of problems with Perlmutter.
Well, there's a difference between personal or there's a difference. Can you do your job, but are you a dick?
Well, no, it's professionally. You can be a dick and do dickish things that affect you professionally, and that's what he was doing. But again, getting rid of Feige in the middle of trying to get rid of Feige at the top of Feige's power back in 2015 when things
at the height of Marvel, yes,
that ridiculous.
That seemed to be a bad move. Now is it, or at least it was executed badly or ended badly for him at the time because he got shuttled out. The question is, was he wrong? And we'll talk about that in a little bit as we move along. Lucasfilm, bought by Disney. We get the sequel trilogy, which I was looking at box office numbers earlier, and episodes 7, 8, 9, the budgets on those movies, I had no idea.
Yeah.
For 446 million.
This is the
317 million. 416 million, and then that's not the advertising.
No, that's you got to pretty much double.
And then if you just take the budget and you look at the box office and the ratio for return before advertising, episode 7 2.1, so they doubled their money, but that's before advertising. Episode 8 4, not too shabby, right? But on a budget of 317, they cut the budget down a little bit. So
that's the Last Jedi.
That helps.
The best movie,
Last Jedi,
frankly.
And then, of course, episode 9, 416, 2.59 cost to return before
Mhm.
stuff. Solo did not do well. A lot of moving parts there. What seems to be a standard issue for Star Wars is that they can't keep anybody. They announce, they cancel, they fire. Those
Marvel
seems
does the
to be
same thing.
the say what?
Marvel does the same thing.
They don't announce. If they announce, they do it.
Usually, yes. I don't think
Very,
there's
I mean,
been too many.
but I believe Kathleen Kennedy has canceled more projects than she has produced since Disney bought Lucasfilm, by far.
Well, here's the thing: is that Marvel will cut ties, not necessarily cut ties. That sounds drastic. They will change directors and still continue. So yes, while they don't cancel projects, they certainly will rearrange directors rather easily.
But again, that's kind of an approach. That's dedication to their overall project or
Right.
overall product.
Mhm.
No, Marvel needs this. So if this is not going the way we need it to, well, we still need it. What do we need to do to make that work?
Yeah.
Lucasfilm goes, we're going to do all of this.
Yeah,
And then give us this, and that.
Because
they don't just pretend the rest of it didn't happen.
They don't have to have this woven interconnected. I mean, yes, they're going to have pieces, but they're not doing what Marvel's doing where every movie connects.
Yes.
They do little one shots here and there. And I think Kathleen Kennedy's an old school producer where she's like, I want a good movie. Let's throw it out to as many people as we can because it doesn't cost much, sadly, to have people write stuff. That's the most important part, is usually the cheapest thing. So let's just throw it out there, see if Taika Waititi is going to write something good. Let's see if Rian Johnson's going to write something good. And if they don't, we don't do it.
You don't announce that at a Star Wars celebration unless you've already got something. But how many of those go away? Yeah,
but also really, what's the cost of that? That is, let's build some hype, and then
the cost of that once in a while isn't terrible. The problem is that she does it a lot.
Right, but I'm just saying,
and the cost of that, and I think you're seeing it now, is customer goodwill.
Yeah, but again, I don't feel like the Star Wars people, they're upset that they're doing a new Rey movie.
Yes, because the first three went so swimmingly.
They didn't do badly. They made money.
Oh, they did not make Star Wars money.
Oh, well, but that's the thing, is they're not going to make. I don't think Star Wars money is going to exist very much anymore.
Well, let me ask you a question then, since we were going to get to this anyway. If you're going to make another Star Wars film, and you're going to announce just one, you're going to announce one Star Wars film when you haven't had one since 2019.
Right.
So it's now 2021, 22, 23. 4 years later, you're going to announce that in 2 years, you're going to release another Star Wars movie. So 6 years from the last one, you're going to announce one after everything that was wrong with Rise of Skywalker. Why on God's green earth do you immediately announce a film that you know fully half of your audience is not going to watch?
It's the same reason why they picked,
the other half is not going to go see it 3 times to make up for it.
No, I know, but that's also why they went with Filoni's rehash. I mean, he's doing an end game for Star Wars, is basically what that movie is.
Star Wars television.
Right, but it's still an end game where they're connecting all of those together. Right. I'm not sure a lot of people like Book of Boba Fett, and now they're starting to wane a little bit on Mandalorian. I don't think in 2 years it's going to be as potent as it is right now.
I don't think it is either. But I think part of that, I mean, and Ryan and I have talked about this in the past, is that ever since Disney Plus came out, and all of, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars, with the exception of Mando, which they launched with, every series can be generously called a slow burner, and then you get to the last episode or episode and a half of that season and or series, and they pack everything into it.
Yeah, no.
I've been saying it to Ryan forever. I said, eventually your audience will get an episode or two in and go, why am I watching it when anything that important is going to happen is going to be in the last episode and a half, and will I care by that? And eventually it was going to come back and bite them. Now, I will argue that Book of Boba Fett was a colossal foot shooting, because that literally, it was after Mando season 2. All they had to do was make a competent Book of Boba Fett, and it was going to be but they didn't.
Nope.
They
Backdoor
shoehorned
fine.
in 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, which were the best 2 episodes in Book of Boba Fett. And then we wait 2 years for Mando episode 3, during which they seem to be sidelining The Mandalorian, and which now, I guess even the producer or director is saying anyone could be The Mandalorian. So basically, this is no longer The Mandalorian show. It's a Star Wars Mandalorian maybe show. We don't even know if it's going to just be, the Rise of Mandalore. We don't know what this is going to be. So they took the show that launched the thing that everyone pretty universally liked.
Yep.
And now it just seems like
Disney
every
took
time
something and wrote it into the ground. I don't believe you.
but it just feels like every time they're tasked with making a decision, it is literally the one that is designed to do badly.
It's designed long term to do badly because here's the problem that Disney's got. They have too many cows, too many IPs, and so they will gladly milk a cow dry.
Moana live action.
Because they know they have all these other cows. Where if you and I, like we're regular folks, we only have one cow if we're lucky.
Right.
We are going to take care of that cow. We're going to love that cow. Yeah, we're going to milk the cow, but we're not going to milk the cow till it's dry and then have to sell the cow to slaughter. Because we actually, like John Wick, there's this franchise that they have definitely milked that cow, but that cow is not in any
danger of it. No,
it's going to die. It's not going to dry at any point. And in fact, we're just going to keep milking out the same amount, and then maybe we'll give you an extra glass. But that's it. That's all they're doing. And
exactly,
do that. Never does that.
No. Well, here's the problem. They're doing it to all of their properties.
Yeah.
At the same time, and again, the audiences are like, well, then why do I care? It's not superhero fatigue.
It's bad
because Spider-Man No Way Home gave that a big old double deuce.
Oh, it was great.
So it is not COVID. It is not superhero fatigue. It is, this movie's terrible, or this series is not good, or what are you doing? But it is not, well, the audience is just tired of, no, they're tired of garbage.
Yep.
If you give them a good product, people will go and see it. Spider-Man No Way Home, Sony. And they knew exactly, audiences knew what they were going to get in that show. They knew it. I mean, and I was looking at box office for Marvel movies since 2019 Endgame.
Well, let's not give Sony all the credit, because
No.
Yeah,
they had
stupid enough to go, I don't want Spider-Man to be in there, and it was only because of the interview North Korea leak that their stockholders went, wait a second, you guys don't want to partner up with the biggest movie company in the world and just make money hand over fist? You're stupid.
But again, No Way Home, again, that's Sony making their Spider-Man movies. That was their third. But yeah, they had input from Marvel about how it might tie in to Marvel, but it was not a Marvel production. Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not downplaying No Way Home at all, because I love No Way Home. Avengers.
No, I'm downplaying Sony's smarts, because you're making it sound like Sony is this very sophisticated and suave. And again, they don't have many cows, so they're going to try to take care of their cow, though they've ruined a couple cows in the past with Spider-Man. That's the one cow they keep trying to get a same spider cow, and they end up, why is this spider cow dead? Because it's the only cow you got and you abused it.
Yeah. So here's the 1, 3, 4.
Well, one last thing before we get into the stats is that Disney is really, the problem with Disney is they want it to be Netflix immediately, and like DC, who keeps stepping on their own dicks trying to do stuff to be a universe, they went like your hate bloggers. They put too much content at once. So let's just make as much content as possible, so we have something on there so people will feel like they have to sign up, and instead of naturally, organically building like they should have, like DC should have, and I think they're going to try to start doing. They did a DC and said, let's just make it all at once, and things are not going to be as consistent or as quality based as that when you're just trying to put as much content on as possible.
Yep. So let's go back to Marvel. Endgame made $2.8 billion, give or take.
Yeah.
7 times its budget, which the budget was $400 million, but it had literally every Marvel actor in it. So
And
probably
also,
half of that budget and a lot of VFX, obviously. So again, half that budget is probably actors.
yeah, and also let's
So
not forget on that box office you have 10 years of buy-in
right.
culminating.
Again,
And that's
so
probably the biggest reason why Marvel's not doing well now is they don't have anything leading up. They're starting from scratch again, and
well,
they're doing a DC.
so they made 7 times their money,
Yeah.
basically, right? Before advertising. That's a great return. Spider-Man No Way Home, 9.5 times its budget.
Yep.
Black Widow. I don't like to talk about Black Widow, not because the movie's terrible, but because it was a movie that came too late and was day and date release. So its box office means nothing.
Right.
Everyone wants to go, oh, well, you can't count it because of this and that. And the one instance where I will go, yes, COVID and day and date. Black Widow, it's a non-starter. Don't even use that in a pro or con argument for anything. Just go, we're sorry we waited so long, Scarlett Johansson. That wasn't us. That wasn't us. We wanted it earlier. That was them.
And it gave us Florence Pugh, which is, I think,
and it gave us Florence Pugh, which is awesome.
Yes.
Shang-Chi, 200 million, fairly respectable, made twice its money, which basically means it broke even in terms of stuff.
Yeah.
Eternals,
Oh,
2 times its money, which basically means it lost money because they were pushing that hard. Their advertising budget had to be ridiculous. Black Panther came out before Doctor Strange came out first. 4 times its money. A phase 3 Avenger in Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And COVID was unrolling, but it was an original Avenger ish. It was old school Marvel. How about that? Sam Raimi. It looked like we were now being given post Loki the multiverse. That's what everyone was going in. So 4 almost 5 times its money.
Yeah, and that one
for whatever the other stuff, but it made its money and generally good, not great reviews.
Right. And that one was very fan generated where there were so many wild possibilities.
Yeah, because it's the multiverse.
Tom Cruise is going to be in it. And,
I know, right?
And this is going to happen and that's going to happen.
But
and
I feel like if Tom Cruise could have been in it and made it work, he probably would have. And he would have been okay. I mean, I don't think it was. I think it was, honestly, I'll bet it was a scheduling issue. I'll bet if he could have done it, I'll bet he would have done it.
Yeah, yeah.
But then Black Panther Wakanda Forever should have been ridiculously successful. Say what you want. Okay. Again, this is where I say Disney, because Disney owns Marvel. When Disney is forced to make a decision, they almost always choose the wrong one. Or the one that's designed to fail. Yes, Chadwick Boseman died. Chadwick Boseman had said, Black Panther is not me, he's bigger than me. So their choice, Marvel's choice is kill Black Panther or recast Black Panther. Arguably, neither choice is really palatable
they were
to the audience. But they didn't delay the film, which, in terms of that film, could easily have been delayed a year.
I think they were handcuffed. That was a no-win situation.
Well, it is, but had they delayed and recast, they could have spent that extra time. Everyone could have made that transition okay.
Yeah, but I think it was a philosophical stance that they took on that one, where they wanted to make a movie to honor Chadwick Boseman, and it would have been hard to do that had you recast them. They can recast them moving forward if they'd like, But I thought the one right after his death, I think you had to address it somehow, and I think they did the best that they could with a bad situation, and I'm not going to fault them for that.
No, like I said, they were kind of in a lose-lose.
Yeah.
But even so, that movie did not do well. I mean, it did triple its budget, but
for what?
Theoretically, if my budget numbers are okay, right? So
that one was not. It was a mediocre movie, and I think it was. You're right. They could have delayed the script. And refined it and made it better and kept the same story, but just made it better. But instead, they were a rush job because they had a whole different story. And
and then there's the Namor controversy. Why even use it? Why change if you can't use Namor? Why tweak it so much that everyone is going to be upset that it's not Namor? Why not either get a different villain or pay to use Namor and be done with it? Or the Namor they built. If you chop the wings off of him, that's a really cool society. You've now created an entirely new villain who's got an interesting backstory. but they saddled themselves with baggage that the audience made them pay for. Say what you want, the audience made them pay for the Namor debacle, for that situation. They just did. Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah, that was just a mediocre movie.
The welcome mat is out for has been pulled in for Taika at Marvel. Even Hemsworth says he wants a more serious Thor if he's to do one again. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is going to basically lose money when it's supposed to be kicked. And all the other stuff was phase 4. Ant-Man is supposed to be phase 5. This is where phase 5 rolls in. We get Kang, and that movie does not do well.
Don't even want to talk about Jonathan Majors, because that's a whole nother.
That is a whole separate argument. Geez, and that is not Disney's problem. Although in the grant, but that's not something Disney did to itself.
No, it's definitely not something they did.
Disney has done enough to itself to where that is not even theirs. However, that is literally the easiest thing to fix in terms of what they theoretically are building toward, because it's Kang. You don't have to have Jonathan Majors.
No, you can always have a variant that kind of.
You can have a variant that kind of looks like Jonathan Majors. So that in the grand scheme of things, yes, Jonathan Majors has problems. Marvel can work around that much easier than they could the death of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
So the question is, this is not superhero fatigue. It can't be. Because after Endgame, people were excited to see where it went. After No Way Home, people were excited for the multiverse.
I'm going to put on that last one. On the first one. After Endgame, I know there was a lot of, man, I got to watch everything. And even Alan, my co-host, was like, I think I'm going to check out after Endgame. And this is before Endgame came out. Yeah. He wasn't sure they were going to stick the landing. And then of course they did. They nailed it. And then, but they gave everybody a stop at the train station and allowed a lot of people to get off, which is fine, but nobody got back on. And that's the thing. Not a lot of people got on because they realized, oh, if I start this, I'm going to have to watch everything that comes out. Otherwise I'll miss something. And I was willing to do it the first time. I'm not sure I'll do it again.
So then the question then becomes, why is Marvel acting like nothing has changed? I don't want to call it superhero fatigue. I really don't.
No, it's not. I don't think it is.
But again, why are they not changing this many films in to go, perhaps we need to rethink our approach?
I think that train is going downhill, and I don't know if Feige has the ability.
Now, he did recently announce that they are, in fact, going to scale back a little bit by like one movie and one series.
Oh, they're just scaling back, but they're not changing their philosophy. So they're not doing as many movies, but they're not changing everything's going to be connected thing.
Right.
What they should be doing is, now that we had Endgame, should have started a whole bunch of one-offs, solo shots. They should have had, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I think is going to do well because it's not connected to anything. There's no Kang in it.
Not in the grand scheme of things. No.
Yeah.
It takes place in the universe. Yes.
Right, but it doesn't have all these connections. It just has connections to the last movie, and which makes sense for a sequel. But I think they should have just started to do little one-offs, see who people like, see who people don't like, and then maybe give it a little rest for about a couple of years to build up a better roster, and then you can start doing Avengers movies like they did before. That's what they've lost, is that they forgot, and this happens a lot when things are very successful, what makes the most money, because it's not just creative. I think that's where everybody always forgets. These are not just creative decisions. They are business decisions. And everybody wants to look at that 9 times return from Endgame. And that's what they're going for. That's what DC's trying to do, because they're not doing it to be creative. They're trying to go, how can we get a golden goose? How can we really milk all this IP? And that's the problem, is they're trying to maximize their IP for the most money. And the only way they can do that, because the one thing that executives are creative. And so what did it work before? Oh, this is what works. So it's going to work in the future until it doesn't. And that's the problem. We're not having enough innovation. Everybody's resting on their laurels and just kind of doing what always has worked, despite the fact that everybody is tired of that.
Okay, well, to take that argument then, why are we getting a Ray-centric Star Wars Episode 10 because it worked so well before. No,
but it didn't work. They didn't make money. And also, I mean, they didn't lose. I mean, they didn't lose a whole bunch of money. And it's one of those things where what is the easiest for them to reintroduce? We do have a whole generation of kids that love the sequels. It's just us old farts that are like, wait a second, this is not as good as it was, which, you know, I totally get, because I didn't like the prequels, but there's a whole slew of people who love the prequels. I don't know why. They're all legitimately awful. And yet
they're not all legitimately awful. They have well, here's okay, so here,
but that doesn't mean anything. If I eat a meal and yes, the appetizer was fantastic, or, you know, maybe the mashed potatoes were perfect, but everything else tasted like crap, that meal was bad.
Well, here's the quick tangent in this rant. The problem with the prequels is they do have some really great moments. The problem is the prequels they're predestined. We know exactly how they're going to end.
Yep.
And so it's tough for even George Lucas to go in and build 3 movies that are as good as the original 3.
And yet
when we know where they're going.
And yet Filoni came in and made Clone Wars, and we knew how that was going to end, and that was very good. I think they were focusing on the wrong
he
thing.
was using characters that we didn't know. Well, that's not true. He was using Ben but he was filling in holes, and he wasn't using George Lucas's dialogue, which everyone can agree is not good.
It hasn't been ever good. Even Harrison Ford complained about it in 77. But George Lucas thought, hey, this is almost like Assassin's Creed movie, if you remember that. They'd here's a great game. Everybody loves this game. Let's take the most boring part of the game and make a movie out of that. George did the same thing. He's like, here's the big galactic wars going on. You know what's the most exciting part?
Trade routes.
Policy and trade routes. Yeah, let's focus on that.
Well, the thing is that the politics is actually super important. The trade routes, whatever. But
it is important, but it was badly executed. It was boring.
Yeah, politics. I mean, you've got to punctuate with some other stuff. So, and I think that's part of why people didn't necessarily like Andor so much, is because a lot of that is. I love Andor. Don't get me wrong. I think Andor is great. I was telling everyone to watch it, but people were checking out because it came out post Boba Fett, and people were like,
"Yeah,
you know." But Andor that's a political spy series set in the Star Wars universe. That's not a Star Wars movie per se.
Done well.
Yeah. So it's like, just watch it for what it is. Don't baggage that. And even the problem is that eventually you know how that ends because we have seen Rogue One. But again, if you watch it for the bigger picture, it's really good, smart writing with some really great performances. So I feel bad.
We take your premise that everything's predestined, and we know that means every historical movie ever made is going to be boring because we know how it ends. But it's not. It's how it's executed. And,
it is.
And I think they rushed them in. I mean, of the 3 movies they just announced, they announced basically an end game for Star Wars.
Right.
I feel like that one's going to be mediocre to good. I think with Rey, I have no idea because it is new and it's all going new places, but I have a feeling that's going to be mediocre to bad. Mm-hmm. What really gets me excited, and it's not necessarily for this movie, is James Mangold taking his own movie. He's writing 25,000 years in the past, which tells me that the Indiana Jones movie is probably not that bad because they liked him enough to give him this. Because he wrote that movie and directed that movie, and if that movie's garbage, they're going to distance themselves.
Here's the argument on that, is that Indiana Jones and Star Wars are both Lucasfilm properties, which means if Kathleen Kennedy is happy with Indiana Jones, she can give James Mangold one. That doesn't necessarily mean that the fans are going to be happy with Indiana Jones.
I don't know why there's so much skepticism with Kathleen Kennedy, because whenever anything goes well and she's the executive producer, people go, oh, it's not her, it's this person. But if it goes badly, it's all her. So it's weird because everybody's like, oh, The Mandalorian's great, I love it. Well, guess who executive produced that one and gave it the green light? Kathleen Kennedy. Oh no, that's Favreau and Filoni. Oh, Filoni. Well, she brought them in. So either she doesn't credit, or
I want to see Filoni Star Wars.
I know.
I think I want to see that.
But I mean, just like you were talking about with Feige, either she gets the credit what she deserves and then also gets the criticism, or she doesn't get the credit or the criticism. You can't do both, and that's what they do with Kathleen Kennedy, who has a amazing track record up until recently, which is not uncommon for people who start to age out of entertainment.
Well, can we age them out?
We did. We got rid of Perlmutter at 80, so we only have 40 more years to go.
Okay, Perlmutter's arguments were that they were spending too much money on movies. The budgets were too high. They fired him because they were streamlining the entertainment stuff. So they rolled comic books into Disney, which makes no sense. Roll merchandise into Disney? I'll accept that argument, because if there's one thing Disney knows how to do, it's print cheap plastic toys and sell them for outrageously high prices.
They were trying to get rid of him for years and didn't have a legitimate, because again, it's all politics and optics, didn't have a good enough excuse until all of a sudden, hey, we have to start doing rollbacks. This is a good opportunity to get rid of him, and he still gets a golden parachute.
So so all of this stuff, did he actually get his golden parachute? I can't. He might not have. I don't remember.
They didn't disclose it, but I'm obviously.
Well, I'm fairly certain he's not wanting for money. Let's put it that way.
I'm pretty sure he got something.
Yeah, it's something. But so then the question is, if you're going to fire these people, that is a backdoor acknowledgement that there are issues.
Oh, sure.
With your output. So the question is, when do we see a change in that output?
Well, they're going to have to put a change fairly soon, because they got rid of Victoria, who's in charge of visual effects. And guess what? Every movie is reliant on those. So you can't leave that particular spot open for too long. I think once that domino falls, and because right now they're just cutting they're just cutting. That's what they're doing. And that's what businesses, it's all businesses. They're cutting. And once they've figured out how much they can get rid of, then they can start figuring out what they can bring back.
Well, when I was in the military, every time they were kind of come out and say, "Oh, we need to do a reduction in," they called it a reduction in force. That's when they,
restructuring, reorganization.
Well, when it was personnel, it was a reduction in force. If they're like, we have too many bases, it was BRAC, the base realignment and closure. They would have that. Congress would have that committee, so they would have BRACs. And every time they'd talk about people, and even day to day, everyone's like, "Man, why do we have all of this management?" And I promise you, the problem is management at Disney writ large. Disney, Lucasfilm, Marvel. The problem is management.
Yes.
It is not worker bees. My story in the military was like, we could if every enlisted person over the rank of E7 and over the rank of 06 died today, the military would not skip a beat. We could deploy, we could fight a war, we could do this, we could do that. Why? Because they're not actually doing anything. All of the people that are actually doing things would still be around. So,
but who has the decision power? See, that's where you're forgetting is who has the decision power. Those people who have a foot level.
Fun fact: in an organization, there's two types of authority, Craig. There's positional authority and there's competence-based authority. Well, in the lack of positional authority, guess who's in charge? The guy everyone knows what he's doing, wherever he falls.
Well, we're not a military.
Even in business, every corporation has a guy in middle management that knows enough to be CEO, just doesn't really care enough. But if there's a weird issue, everyone from every direction knows that Jim down in accounting knows exactly what this was. So everyone goes to Jim in accounting, even though it's an HR problem. Jim knows the answer.
In business, the Peter Principle actually exists quite a bit, and competency is not necessarily how it works in any business. So I don't want to get Disney. I've worked in corporations my entire life. I don't have the military background like you do, but I do have the corporate background. And the Peter Principle is very strong. And yes, they keep that guy on, your expert. They keep that guy on but they get rid of everybody around him, and then they make him work twice as hard.
Yes.
So and then he leaves on burnout and totally screws the company.
Right.
So this is what's going on here. Is a lot of people have advanced into the higher hierarchy of Disney
that don't need to be there.
that do not need to be there, but who makes those? Who's going to make the decision? They're the buddy who put them in that position in the first place. So the best thing to do, it's like, we're going to get rid of the workers because it's easier to cut the poor guy who's a cashier at the Tiki Lounge in Disneyland than it is to get rid of the VFX person. But because we asked her to stop doing these side projects and she refused, she thought she was immune. Now we use this loophole to get rid of her.
And then hopefully we get some competent people making decisions. And the problem is I don't think we have competent people making decisions.
Because who's going to decide to put the competent person in there? An incompetent person above them.
Well, let's go back to the Iger put most of those people in their positions. And if they're incompetent, who put them there? Yeah. Iger, the guy we're now counting on to fix everything. Or some people are counting on to fix everything. But hey, look, if you enjoy what you're seeing and hearing on the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast, why not take a second to click subscribe if you're on YouTube, click follow wherever you're listening to us. Follow us on Twitter at VS Movie Podcast. Same over on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, it's Visually Stunning Movie Podcast. That would be awesome for us. We appreciate you listening. And now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to fix everything. I just think he's going to bring it back to what it was, because I think that Chapek did make a couple missteps that were pretty big.
Such as
he alienated his entire workforce with the Florida debacle. And that is important. I mean, whether you believe it politically or otherwise, the workers all said, please say something, please say something, please say something. And he didn't until he was kind of forced to. And by that time, it was too late. And then when he did, he went a little bit overboard on his words because he's like, well, let me try to make up for this. And it was that whole thing. So that's
that's why corporations should stay out of politics.
I 100% agree.
Because you know why? A corporation is in existence to make money for its owners / stockholders. Now, it's funny. We've been watching Vice has a series called Icons Revealed or something. It's Icons, but they've been doing a series on Marvel. And early on in one of those, we're like on episode 5 or 6, like in episode 2 or something. I can't remember which movie they were talking about, but one of the guys behind the scenes, he was like, well, these people kept coming down and giving notes, and these people kept coming down and giving notes, and they wanted, well, you can't have this. We need to do this. We need to do the other thing. And it was, you can't do that. He goes, because if you're trying to please everyone at the expense of the story,
you don't please anyone.
You don't please anyone. And that was like way back in like, Iron Man 2, Thor time frame, right? And it's like, and I'm watching that and I just looked at my wife and I go, I feel like Marvel needs to watch that quote. And go,
they definitely lost their at the beginning,
because they've lost story. That it's like, oh, well, we need to put this in, or we can't have this, or we need to. It's like, what's the story? Write the story, tell the story, and the audience will tell you if you're right, and you can use that moving forward. But the audience will tell you that you're right or wrong with the box office, and that's the money part. It's like, you exist to provide entertainment that people will pay to see, and if they don't pay to see it, don't give it to them again, because you already know they're not going to pay to see it. And if they do pay to see it, go, oh, now you can start to play with that a little bit and see what else works in the context of what has already worked. Yeah. And then but to go, well, now we're going to give you this. Yeah, we're not going to pay to see that. Well, we're going to give you this again. Yeah, we're not going to pay to see this. Well, we're going to give you this again.
Yeah, but
we're still not going to pay to see that.
We don't know. Oh, the reason why, and I'll tell you why. It's Guardians of the Galaxy.
What they're not paying to see.
But Guardians of the Galaxy is a movie nobody asked for, and nobody thought was going to be a success, and nobody even thought about why would they do it like this. And that's what they're trying to do.
And what happened? People went and saw it on the first weekend and went, "Oh my God," and told everyone.
Right, but if they had seen to the audience, but they would never have made that movie, because they
didn't invest a lot in it. That was they had a writer director in James Gunn. They were like, well, maybe we need to lighten it up. So they didn't throw $300 million at it for a 2.5-hour movie with huge name stars. They said, let's try something a little different, because Marvel likes to have fun. I'm sure Stan was like, oh, I'll bet that might be a good time because Stan was still alive back then.
I have no doubt about
So
that.
it's like,
That's the same thing that Captain Kennedy tries.
But the approach to that film is different than the approach they're taking now with 250, 300, $350 million budgets.
That's because they've got how many movies to kind of back that up. That's the problem, is that they're not thinking outside the box like they were doing when they first started. I mean, to pick Iron Man as your initial movie.
Well, I'll tell you what, that Icon series on Vice explains how they got to that decision. And it really was at the point of a gun. And I'll tell you the story. Because at that point Marvel had parted out all of their intellectual properties, right? So they were looking at what they had. They had Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. Didn't really have the Hulk,
no,
but they didn't have him as hard as they didn't have Spider-Man at the time, right? So they kind of had Hulk. So they looked at it and they're like, well, if we're going to make a movie, who do we go with? And your boy Ike Perlmutter did two things. He commissioned toys or went to kids and he said Iron Man toys with armor that comes on and off and has all this stuff, or Captain America. And the kids went, look at all the crap we can do with Iron Man. And he went, that's what's going to sell your merchandise. And that's how they chose to make Iron Man. Well, say what you want about Ike Perlmutter. You can thank him for that.
Well, and of course, there we have the same problem we have as we move forward, is they're much more concerned about, and this is Star Wars' problem, they're much more concerned about the toys than they are about the movies.
Which aren't selling.
Well, I know that.
The merchandise isn't selling. You can't go into any Target, Walmart toy store and swing a stuffed cat without hitting clearance Star Wars. They
don't like the movies. I mean,
because they don't like the movies. But
I don't rely too hard on fans moving forward, because fans actually don't know what they like, and certainly what they want is the same thing they had before but slightly different, and that is not going to be useful. And unfortunately, that's why we get these bad movies, is because we do cater to the fans. It's the guy that goes, I pay your salary, you should do what I want. And it's like, no, we created this, you liked it enough to pay money for it, so what we're going to do is create something else, and hopefully you'll like that too. Not, hey, we're going to do exactly what you say because you're a fan. I think this is the same thing about politicians. When you vote for somebody, when you vote for a politician, you shouldn't be voting for them because they're going to be – you should I like the way he presents himself. I like his ideals. I like his principles. I'm going to let him vote, but I'm not going to go, you have to say what I want to do because you voted against me on one issue. Well, that's he's a representation. If you don't like him, get a new person, but don't have someone who will cater to your every whim, because you obviously you should have run.
Everyone.
You should have run. If you want someone to do exactly what you want is someone you're comfortable enough making enough decisions that you're like, okay, I like that, but I'm not going to sit there and let's do a focus group and find out what we should be voting for this week. It's like, I believe in this. I've told you I believe in this. I'm going to vote this way. You vote for me if you believe in me.
Well, my point is that was indicative of the issue. He said, what character is going to sell merchandise? That's the movie you need to make to sell that merchandise. Because if you don't know what movie you're going to make, you have to have a deciding factor. We can market this movie easier and then move into the other ones. And so that's what he did. But if your movie is not good or not liked, it doesn't matter how cool the toys are.
Yeah.
As Star Wars has learned.
Yeah. As Jar Jar Binks issue, everybody thought that was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, and including
George.
Well, no, he's the one who thought it'd be the greatest thing since bread. In fact,
some people before the movie thought he was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but not just George. Some people did.
I don't know.
Most people were like, we'll see. And then we saw.
Well, yeah. It's like a racist Jamaican accent, so we can have him go up against these racist Asian accents in the Trade Federation. And
the little flying Jewish junk dealer.
Oh,
I know. That's a whole other episode.
He's a little bit of Italian, and he got a little Jew going on there.
I know, right? It's not good. But decisions need to be made. But again, it all goes back to the original product, and that product is a movie that people want to see.
Well, yeah.
And if you're not making movies that people want to see, you can't keep giving them that.
Well, they get handcuffed to their own success. And so they try
Well,
to.
you know what? Then unhandcuff yourself from your failures.
Well,
But they're dragging those dead bodies around, going, no, he's fine. He's fine.
that's because they did the same thing on the dead bodies as they did on the ones that are doing well, and so they can't figure out what they did wrong. That's because they do too many. They are focusing on too much. So yes, Ant-Man Quantumania cratered, and I don't think they even understand why.
Because no one was telling people to go back and see it again. No. Marvel and Star Wars get those box office. Say what?
I understand why we didn't go see it again. I don't think the creative people who invest 5 years into their lives to create this and put it out understood why it failed. They just, like, after the fact, they're like, well, people just didn't tell anybody they liked it. I don't know why. It's got everything you wanted in it. It's like, no, it didn't have everything you wanted in it.
It barely had anything I wanted in it.
Well, exactly. It wasn't an Ant-Man movie. There was no comedy. There was no fun. There was snippets of it, and there were like 3-second parts of it near the beginning and near the end, and then in the whole middle was some kind of weird other movie.
Yeah, and just I don't get it. But yeah, I don't know what's the next movie we get. We Guardians, which doesn't count because it's kind of a standalone. Guardians has always been a standalone kind of film.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to do well because it has its little standalone audience. It's the in-house Marvel Spider-Man.
Right.
Connected, but not.
Yeah, and it was only connected to other movies. It was never connected in the Guardian movies.
Right. They went out. Other people didn't come in.
And that's how I hope they continue to use the Hulk. I do not need a Hulk movie.
Well, they still can't. But that's still up in the air.
Yeah, but that's Disney. Disney can go buy it if they want, if they really want.
Only if Universal wants to sell it.
Well, again, I think Universal has some issues as well. That's the same thing with Sony. Sony had some financial issues, and they kind of had to do the Spider-Man thing.
Yeah.
Universal's not in the best position.
No, eventually that'll change.
Yeah.
Maybe we should merge Sony and Universal. Then we can have Spider-Man fight the Hulk in Brooklyn.
I think we could do that anyways because if we.
But it would have to be in an Avengers movie.
Well, no. If we do a Sony Spider-Man movie, with Marvel producing it, they can use the Hulk as long as it's not a Hulk movie. So he can be in any movie. That's the great thing about their situation is he could be any supporting character in any movie.
Yeah. The payback is just different. There's math there. There's money math there. Business. Yeah.
But that's why he was such a huge part of Thor Ragnarok. Because it wasn't a Hulk movie. So if we just have Spider-Man and then we have him fighting the Hulk.
Yeah. I'm down with that.
And that's like Deadpool. Deadpool is going to I think it's going to be its own little thing. And
yeah, I'm interested to see how that.
It's the first time they've ever given a director executive producing credit on a movie they're directing.
Really?
So James Gunn
for Disney?
For Marvel, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Marvel has never had a movie directed by somebody who was also the executive producer, except for James Gunn. And only James Gunn executive produced this last one and some of the Infinity War Endgame. He never was actually the executive producer on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Huh.
So this guy, because they want to keep it the same, because they understand at least this one, the cash cow on this one is different. The reason people go to see this movie, the Deadpool movies, is because it's not like all the other animals in the zoo.
That is 100% true. So so Disney, Marvel needs to not interfere. At least they've already said it will be rated R.
Yeah, and they've already got 2 instances of it working. And again, they're not creative. I think people don't understand how much they lack in creativity on the business end. Yeah. And they're like, if 1 and 2 did this much money, and it did very well, let's give them what they want and stand back because we want to replicate that again.
They've given them no reason to question that at this point. Yeah. And so, but I think that they might be getting to that point with the other films.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that's not working. So, let's talk. Okay, so let's moving forward. Then we talked about Star Wars. Moving forward, we're getting a Filoni movie to tie up television.
Yep.
We're getting a Mangold movie to start the Jedi.
Yep. But at least it's 25,000 years. It's
well,
not
they
like,
say what I saw was it's going to be the first person to realize the Force. So
right.
the first
Going
Jedi.
way back. So they have so much room. It's like a brand new series.
They better not call it the first Jedi because that's going to immediately make people think of the Last Jedi. They could call it Dawn of the Jedi, except that might be too close to Rise of Skywalker. So they're going to have to get creative in the title on that. But so, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, we get, again, I put it out on Twitter. It's like, well, clearly the Rey movie is going to unify the fan base moving forward.
Depends on who writes it, honestly. It depends on how they approach it.
I think those announcements are going to be important. Well, they announced the director already.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where they have a lot of room to fix Rey. If you get someone who actually cares about it and understands the property, if they just hire fucking J.J. Abrams again, sorry for dropping the F-bomb, but I have to say it's fucking J.J. Abrams. If they actually do a one-shot and don't do a trilogy, there's no need for a trilogy.
No.
And if you're going to do a trilogy, at least have a through line for an outline for 3 films. No, don't do what they did with this last one.
Right.
Which I still have no problems with the first 2. Force Awakens and The Last Jedi I have no problems with, because I thought the way they set up the universe at the end of The Last Jedi, that anybody could be a Jedi if they really have the ability, versus you have to have midichlorians of certain things. All of a sudden,
The Last Jedi is not as bad as people want it to be. I mean, I had the whole Canto Bite thing, chuck it, and that movie's a ton better. But yeah, The Rise of Skywalker was a train wreck. But
that was an awful train wreck.
But here's what the other thing, and this is a wider kind of phenomenon in Hollywood, is I try not to watch trailers now, just in general, if I can help it, because they tend to ruin movies for me. They ruin my expectations for film. They either downplay the movie in my head, or they overinflate the movie in my head. So I try not to watch them, or they just flat out spoil something, which I hate.
I'll go with the last 2. I think they spoil way too much, and I also think they overinflate the movie. So they take the very best that they possibly can. Though I do notice that Disney is doing a trend in their trailers that, because I watch the trailers and I don't mind, is that they're really only using, especially with Marvel, they're really only using like the first 20 minutes. All the trailers are really just the beginning of the movie, because I'm starting to see, I saw that in the trailer, and then when look at the watch, it's only the first 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's because they jam so much into it that you don't have a cohesive story. You just have a bunch of blurs and lasers, things
CGI,
like that.
PPU. But the other thing I'm also trying not to do is listen to directors and actors before the film comes out, because they inevitably say something that is going to piss off their audience, at least some segment of their audience. It happened with Dungeons and Dragons, which, by the way, I loved.
Oh, it was great.
But I heard what didn't piss me off, but it feels designed to court controversy in any particular fandom. And specifically in this one, it was when the directors came out and said, we'd love to emasculate our male leads, which I don't think they did in that movie.
No.
But I'm like, why on earth would you say that in an interview when you know that is a flashpoint? Especially, in my opinion, when it's not really true in this movie. You can maybe I get, but that's one instance of people, that's almost as bad as Brie Larson going, I don't care what a 40-year-old white guy thinks of my movie. Okay. So if I say your movie sucks, you don't care, but then you get upset about it. And
no, she doesn't. She gets upset about idiots going online and ripping into her because she doesn't smile enough. Or the one I saw is they showed the picture of Tom Holland in the Spider-Man suit, and he's got a butt, and they show her in her Captain Marvel, and
that
she's got
suit was not
butt.
flattering for anybody.
No, but I mean,
but again, you see my point. It's like, why do you go out and say anybody associated with? Why would you go out and say anything?
Oh, I can tell you.
That would theoretically limit your audience. Why are you not going out? I think you should literally. I think anybody can go into this movie and really enjoy themselves. They can find something they're going to enjoy, whether you like the action, whether you like the special effects. That should be the extent of your press blurbity blurbs. That's it.
That's exactly why that these things happen, is because the press junket is 4 months long. They're talking to so many more people, because in the old days you wouldn't have as many outlets. You wouldn't have them eating hot wings. You wouldn't have them doing Google autocorrect. They wouldn't be doing all these weird things. So they're doing so much press and such different formats that you're not going to get a consistent message. And yes, guess what? They're human beings. Every once in a while, something honest will slip out, and then it's not something that you would say to your audience, but you're talking to somebody and it's like the end of the day, and yeah, we like to emasculate things, thinking it might be a joke. It may be true, but it's also something it's going to inevitably slip.
I just feel like that kind of thing is happening way more frequently now.
It is.
And it's just like, shut up.
There's way too many outlets, because it is happening, because there's so much more they have to do. And there's so much more they have to do in a different sort of way. It's no longer these roundtable discussions at a press conference kind of thing. Right. It is literally, you're going to be running around doing a podcast, or you're going to be doing Entertainment Tonight, or you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing that. There's so many different formats, so many different ways of talking. There's so many different conversations you're having that after a while, you're going to slip up, because you're a human being.
If you can lead a $200 million film, you can keep your fucking mouth shut.
You hope.
But even Mark
Ruffalo and Tom Holland are spoiling things years in advance, going on to Jimmy Kimmel and stuff like that. It's difficult. They're human beings. They're not.
I blame Tom Holland's youthful exuberance, not I'm tired of talking about the movie. I think he's just excited to talk about movies.
Of course.
And so, damn it, that's Tom. What are you gonna do? It's like, shut up, Tom.
And Mark Ruffalo,
that's part of his charm.
Yeah, but then of course Mark Ruffalo does a Facebook Live by accident at the premiere for the first 10 minutes of, and you can hear what's going on. So again, that's part of their thing. They have to do Facebook things. They got to do Instagram. There's so much crap they've got to do that I don't think it's as controlled as it used to be, and that's where you're going to get this controversy, because I don't think they're doing it on purpose.
I think some of them are, but I don't know why. I don't get it. I'm like, why? Because then your movie now has more to overcome. Any questionable aspects, any production, any script deficiencies, any whatever, you now have to jump one more hurdle to get people to recommend that film to their friends.
Well, now you're seeing why the business side of Disney is so important, because what you're having you're having creatives do it now, and creatives don't understand that what they say like that is going to affect the bottom line.
But they also turn around and go, thank you for seeing this in the theater the way we intended it, and don't spoil shit for your friends. Yeah, it's like, yes, that should be your message. We're done here. But then they don't do one day of press. Do that. But it feels like a lot of executives are going out of their way. It feels like they're going out of their way. So whether they are or aren't is irrelevant, but they're doing things or saying things that seem designed to incite half. And it's like, that's not all press is good press anymore.
Yeah, but is it executives, or is it a mixture of creatives and executives? Because I don't see a lot of executives. I'm the only one. He's the head guy. He's got to do that. And I think he's got an ego. So when him and Ron DeSatan fight with each other, I don't think Iger's the kind of guy that backs down, whether it's good for business or not. But I don't hear a lot of the middle guys. I don't hear Kevin Feige going out there and saying things. I don't hear Filoni going out there and saying things, and Favreau going out there and saying things.
Because they're like first level creatives. They're like, I am making this show. Feige is like, I'm making all of these shows.
Yeah, but I don't hear him doing it. I'm trying to figure out what executives you're talking about, because I don't think the executives are doing it. I think it is the directors and sometimes the producers who are also in the talent creative area.
She-Hulk comes to mind. And it's like, and especially She-Hulk, when it's like, 3 years ago, we wrote this because we knew what the men on Twitter were going to say about your show. And it's like, so you wrote a show designed to elicit those responses. You wrote the worst version of a show designed to elicit this response.
I don't think that.
Either way, they wrote a garbage show.
Oh, see, I disagree. I think I know what they were trying to do, and I thought that it was good. But
like I said, I wanted to like that show so bad. I wanted to like that show so bad.
Miss Marvel was great, and they got a lot of crap.
What's okay? Good look. Everyone out there going, "Oh, Mark's dude." I'm one of the few people that defends Ms. Marvel.
Yes, but that's
I thought that was a really well put together show.
It was. And they still got the same comments that She-Hulk got.
And which
because now it's woke, it's pro woman. Oh, it's actually pro Middle
Ms.
Eastern.
Marvel did not run around every episode going, men suck.
No.
Ms. Marvel was a teenage girl trying to figure out, much like, again, I equate Ms. Marvel, the series, to the 6 months of Spider-Man we didn't see before Civil War, when Tony Stark shows up. That's how I imagine Spider-Man was trying to figure out his first 6 months.
I'm sure.
So that's and I was like, that's a really good show. That's a teenager trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And it was a good show. But it had cultural issues, it had sex issues, gender issues, it had political issues. Got it. And it's all integrated into the show, and again, it's well put together. And She-Hulk was not.
It's still got a lot of the comments of She-Hulk.
And you're never going to stop those people, because those people either A, believe it really, 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 really bad, or really know it's going to drive clicks.
Well, you know this because you get your Disney checks every time you agree or like a Marvel movie that you're paying.
Man, I am rolling in those Disney. No, wait, no.
Yeah, Snyder guys, the Snyder boys all think that anybody who doesn't like anything from DC is getting paid by Marvel, and it's like,
I wish I was getting paid by Marvel. I wish I was getting paid by Disney. I wish I was. Look, I will fluff a DC movie if they want to send me a check, but we all know that's not how it works.
Absolutely, you would know. There's one critic out there who would tell people, he would show you the check from DC.
Yep. He'd be like,
even if his career was over, he'd be like, look, I'm retiring. I'm done. I hate this. Look at the checks I've been doing. They're nothing. Yeah. No one's ever proven it because it's not true.
No. And it's not like, and everyone's like, what is it? They have to keep their access. It's like the access for me, the access is I get to drive 45 minutes to see a film 3 days before you do.
Yeah.
To write a review,
I don't even get
24 hours before you see it. And that's it. That's my access. And then at the end of the year, I've worked myself to the point where I get the box of screening copies for awards for movies that I either have seen or missed, or were so small they didn't show them here. It's like, so is that my fluff? Is that the shill?
Oh yeah.
I mean, right now, you know what company I shill for right now? And really shill for? There's two, A24 and Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
Not because they give me shit, but because they consistently give me crap that I really enjoy watching.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give me crap, by the way. I'm not saying that I'm doing it just because they give me crap, because they don't give me crap. But it feels like, I mean, Ryan and I joke all the time. He's, we're not being paid by Apple TV Plus. I know it sounds like we're being paid by Apple TV Plus, but this show or movie is really good, and it happens to be on Apple TV Plus. Yeah, and we say that a lot.
And of the two of you, Ryan's the one that has the real access, but that's because it's his job, and he's
been doing it a long, long time.
And he does a great job at it.
He does.
But he's not hanging out with these guys. It's not like he has access where he's going to be flying out to Hollywood. Almost everything I see him doing is satellite or Zoom, and that's because he lives in Utah. And I don't think people understand how few movie critics live in LA or have access to a market where someone's going to show up.
Right. And it's so, and not every critic gets, I didn't get flown out to the opening of Galaxy's Edge in Anaheim, but like all of those social media influencers and stuff, people that you saw when that opened.
Yep.
That's stuff. I don't have that access.
No, I don't.
I'm not a Disney shill. I'm not a Disney hater. I have traditionally liked Disney. I traditionally like Star Wars. I still like some of the things, the pieces of things that they're doing. I think they've lost their way. I think Marvel has lost its way, but I up until through No Way Home, I was a physical media completist.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can look at myself. I own the original, the 1990 Captain America on DVD. I own Corman's Fantastic Four.
I wouldn't brag about that.
But I'm just saying, I own Dolph's Punisher. I'm a completist. And then I got to the point where I'm like, these movies are on my wish, or they're in my list to buy. I just haven't gotten around to buying them yet. So
my question to you is, are you a football fan at all?
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the same thing that's going on with Bill Belichick. So Bill Belichick was not very good at the beginning in the 90s when he was with the Cleveland Browns.
To be fair, no one is really good when they're with the Cleveland Browns.
No one is, and he still did pretty good with a mediocre team. So let's remember that.
Right.
But he has had 20 years of success. Yes, some of that had to do with Tom Brady, but then some years The offense wasn't nearly as good. It was all defense. So it's a combination of those two guys coming together and being awesome. And the last six have been mediocre. And I think Endgame is the same situation for Marvel, where they did a great job of sticking that landing, which was amazingly difficult, a huge accomplishment. And anything after that is going to be very disappointing and going to be tough because you are starting from scratch. And yes, while you do have some cachet, it still matters on what you're doing moving forward. And now they're a little more, business oriented. Like let's see what demographic will like this particular thing better instead of going with the best story. And so I think it's the same thing that happens to everyone who gets really successful. Everyone expects, high level all the time, and then there's going to be a dip. There's going to be. You can't do it for that long. No one has. Name me one person who has been good from the moment they started till the very end. Scorsese's movies don't make money anymore. Even when they did, they didn't make huge money. Spielberg, his movies don't make money. They're still great, but they don't make money.
Well, I'll argue the great part too, but
West Side Story was fantastic. I hate musicals, and if I like it, I thought it was really well done.
See, I feel the same way. If I like a musical, I'm like, well, I hate musicals, but I like that one. I did not enjoy West Side Story, and I thought The Fabelmans was fine.
I thought The Fabelmans was good. But again, I think it's because we're expecting something else from Spielberg, and we're getting
and it could be. So let's talk moving forward. Assuming that Marvel and Star Wars could both slip into cultural irrelevancy based on recent performance, right?
Yeah.
What is the tipping point? What if the Rey film is $200 million, they somehow magically get a $200 million budget and they don't go to $400 million, $200 million.
Yeah.
And we get episode 10, Rey does it again. And that movie,
it shouldn't be.
How much does that movie have to make or not make for people to go Star Wars is basically over at this point? Because that'll be the next movie we get. Cinematically, Star Wars is done.
Right. I absolutely, because I think actually we could get the Filoni movie first because the natural progression, it's probably already ready to go, and they have a game plan and it's probably already outlined. But yes, I agree that probably Rey is they're definitely going to try to capitalize on Daisy Ridley still being young and still being her.
Right.
Which actually she could still age out, so it's not a big deal. I mean, not age out, but
they're setting it 15 years after, so they have some time.
Yes, and that's the problem there as well. I think they might have announced that one a little too soon, and we'll see what happens. But anyways, I think that one's going to have to be huge. It's going to have to be not necessarily No Way Home money, but it cannot be Homecoming.
Does it have to be $2 billion?
I don't think it has to be. No, I don't think it has to be $2 billion. I think it has to be $1 billion. I think it has to bring at least 3 to 4 times its budget.
Actual budget?
Yes, like the numbers that you have been using.
Right.
2.5, 4.5. I don't believe it's going to be 9. I don't think that's going to happen. Only
so if it's a $200 billion or $200 million movie, it has to make it. But is that good enough?
I mean, again,
to save Star Wars, he said with air quotes.
I don't, since it's not the only one, I don't think so. I think if they look at it as an offshoot and not episode 10, I think they're going to be in better shape.
And that would be interesting how they market it.
Now, like I said, they're not doing a trilogy, hopefully. Right. But if they do make a sequel, that's fine. But a sequel is something that is deserved, not planned.
Well, or it's planned as part of a thing, and it's clear from the beginning.
I want this movie to have an ending.
Yes.
That's the problem with Marvel movies is they have sort of a quasi sluggish ending, but there's still more coming on. I want a definitive ending, and like Ben Kenobi, that series was great and it had a definitive ending. And if we move forward, it better have a reason. It has to. Sequels have to prove their existence in my mind.
Right. I don't disagree at all with that.
So that's why I think the Mangold movie is going to be the one that's far more important because that one is all new.
Right.
And nobody knows who the people are. They only know it's a Star Wars universe. And that one is going to have to be that one's the risk. That one's the will people.
Well, that is definitely, I think creatively, I think that's the riskiest one. I think the riskiest one is Rey. I think people will be more inclined to take a flyer on Mangold's Birth of the Jedi, or whatever we're going to call it, thing, because it is all new. There's no, because it doesn't really have any baggage.
Oh, see, I think you give audiences too much credit. I mean,
well,
I think you should give the audience credit in the story. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't think you need to spoon feed them the story, but I also feel like the average person is not going to see a movie they don't know much about unless it's really good. Right. So if they go, "Where's Chewbacca? Where's this? Where's that?" I don't.
So if Mangold's movie comes out after Rey, and Rey is not a huge hit.
Yeah, I do think she's the first domino. I think the Rey movie is the first domino, but I don't think but it all depends on how Filoni's movies does, and then I think it has more than that. But if they were just putting it on one movie, right, you're absolutely right. It has to do. But I think they're spreading it out. They're diversifying their portfolio, so that way, if something screws up, they have something totally different to go to. But the only issue with that is they're not going to learn what their failures are. They're going to go. So, this one failed because of Daisy Ridley, which is the worst thing to do because it's not her fault these movies sucked. I thought she was great in all of them.
There was no plan. That was the problem with the sequel trilogies. There was no plan at all. I don't agree with that.
But that's fine. How I feel. I think that Daisy Ridley, she'll probably get the blame if it doesn't do well. The other movies have other reasons and I think they're smart in diversifying what they're going to do instead of just putting it all on more sequels.
Okay, so let's talk about Marvel then. Marvel, arguably, Marvel is in a worse spot than Star Wars.
Yep.
And I don't know that it's really much of an argument at this point.
No, because
like I said, Guardians as a film does not count. You can't. That indicates nothing about Marvel moving forward. It's the end of the Guardians trilogy, and it's still a standalone. It literally indicates nothing. Like No Way Home indicated nothing about Marvel moving forward in terms of success. So what does Marvel have to do moving? What movie has to hit for people to go, "Oh yeah, Marvel," and be excited about about going to see a Marvel movie twice again?
Captain America: The New Order.
New World Order? You think so?
I think so. I think that one has to hit hard. I mean, they do have it stacked. They got Harrison Ford coming in. He's playing the president. Yeah. They've got a character that has taken over for another character. That while people still like the Falcon, there's still people who don't like the fact that Falcon is Captain America, despite the fact that is comic accurate.
No, I agree.
And so that one is going to lead to Thunderbolts. So if Captain America: New Order doesn't do well, Thunderbolts is doomed.
Thunderbolts might be doomed anyway. I just think that's. I don't know. I don't.
Suicide Squad of. It's going to be the Suicide Squad of Marvel.
And we see how well both of those did, or how good both of those. The movie
was really good. I thought James Gunn movie was good. I thought the original.
I think it was better than the first, but that's not saying a lot. No. Here's my take, and since we still don't have a cast or an actual release date. I'm about to tell you, if Marvel survives to get to the point where the Fantastic Four hits theaters, if they fuck that up, it's done. But they have to survive to get the Fantastic Four to the screen, and they cannot fuck that up. The Fantastic Four is the first family of Marvel, and it has been dogged endlessly cinematically.
And that's why I don't think it's as important.
I think
more important.
I think it's hugely important. I think it is hugely important because that is a property that is Marvel.
Yes, but they've been doing fine without it, and they've also been doing fine with it crashing and burning several times. So that's why I think X-Men, a franchise that was successful despite the fact it was mediocre at best. I mean, the first two, X-Men and X2, I thought those were fine. Yeah, but after that, was not
great. They were okay.
But I think there's a bigger following for X-Men than Fantastic. Hell, I think they stopped printing the Fantastic Four comic for a little bit recently.
Then, and they've had 37 different mutant titles. So, but no, I think X-Men is important. I don't know when it's hitting either.
Exactly. I
But
hear
but
what I hear
but
is Captain America is going to introduce a mutant or
mutants.
two, and then of course we have Wolverine coming in for Deadpool.
Well,
and
and they've already said that Ms. Marvel is a mutant, which I
and
hated
Emerald
that change because they're running as far as they can from Inhumans because of that,
well, they should have.
which is a mistake. Well, they could have just let that exist and kept the idea of the Inhumans because she's not a mutant. Anyway, that's a separate argument.
The only reason they invented Inhumans is because they didn't have the movie rights to the mutants, and they didn't want to start getting in.
The Inhumans were in the comic books in the 80s and 70s.
I understand that, but they couldn't use them in the films. I mean, they couldn't use mutants in the films, so they had to make them Inhumans. So they actually changed everything. I don't.
But they didn't. They could have just left Ms. Marvel as an Inhuman. That's what she was in the comics. But no, I think you if you make a good X-Men movie, I don't think that's it's not as critical to make a great X-Men movie as it is to make a great Fantastic Four movie. I think if you make a crappy X-Men movie and it comes out before Fantastic Four, I don't know if anyone's going to care about the Fantastic Four. I think the X-Men can kill the Fantastic Four, but I don't think the X-Men in of itself can save. I mean, if it comes out and it's ridiculous, if it's $2 billion plus, if it's that good a movie to where people are seeing it 3 and 4 times like they did with Endgame and getting it to $2.7 billion, I think that's a win. That's a huge win. I don't think it's going to. I think they're going to make one. I think they're going to play it safe-ish and not try to do they're not going to have like 30 mutants in it. I don't think they're going to do that. I'm
thinking they're sprinkling mutants in all of their other stuff, and then they're going to have an Endgame type X-Men movie.
And I think you can't do that with just a sprinkling. I think it needs more development. So I think if they make a $700-800 million, again, let's assume that all these rumors about Bob Iger putting caps on freaking movie budgets for Marvel and Star Wars at this point. And I think it's 200 is what they're saying. So let's assume they make a $200 million X-Men movie and that movie makes $800 million. That is a win. You get to Fantastic Four. If Fantastic Four doesn't have to make $3 billion, doesn't have to make $2 billion, but it has to be a film that everyone comes out going, that was a really good Fantastic Four movie. It has to, the critics have to agree and the audience has to agree. There can't be a split. They're either way. It can't, because if the critics love it and the audience hates it, the audience is the one paying the bills. If the critics are like, man, there's some issues with this, but the fans are just happy to have Fantastic Four again, but it doesn't do super money, it's the same problem. Everyone is going to have to agree that the Fantastic Four is a worthy movie. And I think that I honestly think that's the key. I think if they are not really scrutinizing the Fantastic Four from terms of script and story and casting, if they're looking at stunt casting any member of that team or movie, that's a mistake. If they're looking at any stink of tweaking characters in that film, that's a mistake. I think if they're looking at doing whatever it is they're doing to other movies that are not, if they're making mistakes they're making on other films like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, they need to stop. They need to look at the Fantastic Four and go, why do people like the Fantastic Four? Roll that back and pretend it's a phase 1 film. And they just need to make a Fantastic Four movie so that they're in. They can't do anything with the Fantastic Four film except give people the Fantastic Four. And I know that sounds simplistic, but I feel like Marvel has forgotten how to do that. They've forgotten how to just make the movie that people want to see so that then they'll come to your next one, because no one is saying you can't put things in your film. People have been putting Marvel's put things in their film, but if it's not wrapped up in a movie that people care about, it doesn't matter because no one's going to see it. So I like I said, I think X-Men can break Marvel. I don't think it can save it per se, but I think it can sour the well poison the well for Fantastic Four. But I think Fantastic Four. I'm going to keep saying it. I think Fantastic Four is the one that they can't screw it up. They cannot screw that up.
I just don't think Fantastic Four is important to Marvel as it is to the origin or the origins of Marvel. So yes, old school. You have to give all the credit in the world to Fantastic Four for building Marvel for what it is and what we have now. I just don't think audiences, because yes, the core is quite a few. We want people to go see it 3 or 4 times, but if we took everybody that loved the Fantastic Four and had them watch it 3 or 4 times, it's still not going to be that good a movie as box office wise, because you have to have the average person want to see it more than once. And I don't think Fantastic Four is that movie. I just think it's as relevant as it used to be, and I don't think it has a huge following as it used to be because of the previous Fantastic Four garbage movies.
And I think that's why it's more important that movie be good. Because if they're not trying to make it that good, why are they even making it?
Because
because they own the rights. I get it. It's Disney milking the cow.
Because there is it's sticking their finger up and listening to the minority of the Twitter, the loud minority on Twitter going, we want Fantastic Four because hardcore comic book fans would like to see it. I would like to see it, but I also know, having seen different iterations over the last 35 years, that it's not that big a deal. And in fact, I think the last one really did a disservice and made people go, no, I don't care. I think bringing Doom into the situation is far more important than bringing the Fantastic Four.
And I don't think if your Fantastic Four movie is any good, you can't bring Doom in, and you can't bring in Doom isolated. I think they're just too inextricably. I don't know that he needs to be in the first movie, but you can't bring him in. You can't just throw him in to the movie.
I think
it doesn't work.
They should have done is taken Namor out, put Doom in, but put Doom in control of Sokovia instead of Latvia. Yeah. And then you have it connects. It makes perfect sense that a guy after this whole building, this whole
and
city,
and he's a technology guy and a magic guy. And no, I think I might have mentioned that at some point too. It would have been an interesting way to do it, because then you could have post-credited the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is that would have overshadowed Wakanda. And I think that might be a consideration of why they didn't do it. Whereas Namor, but again, Namor is a Fantastic Four villain, pretty much. So yeah, he spent a lot of time in that book.
Oh, sure.
That was one of my titles. He spent a lot of time in that book. So, but he spent a lot of time in Avengers and stuff too. But yeah, so it's interesting. That's my take on it. So all I know is background. I think Disney has a lot of balls in the air. They have a lot of irons in the fire. And they need to figure out definitively what they're doing with Marvel and Star Wars. Because right now, Feige's running Marvel, Kathleen Kennedy's running Star Wars. Neither one is on super awesome footing. Someone needs to.
I think Feige is far more secure than Kennedy, but I also think Kathleen Kennedy is getting ready to retire. I honestly believe this Indiana Jones is like her last one.
That's the rumor.
That's the rumor,
and it's fine.
She's getting fired if the Indiana Jones movie does badly. I think that she wanted to see the end because she started it from the very beginning, and she's making these announcements. She may be executive producer on a couple things, but I think she's getting ready to phase out with some succession planning behind the scenes.
And perhaps but
she's not going to get fired because she's brought too much good. I think
she might be done.
Yeah, I think
she'll be done.
She'll be pearl murdered.
Well, pearl murdered. Yeah, right. She'll get iked.
No, pearl murdered. We call it
pearl murdered. Oh, I like that. Clever. But no, I mean creatively. Feige's not in danger of being fired. No. But I think those two franchises are kind of in the same place.
Yeah, and Marvel are more difficult row because they plan 5-10 years in advance, and if you hit the emergency brake. Well, you hit the emergency brake on Star Wars.
And again, Marvel doesn't cancel anything. At least Star Wars cancels 80% of what they announce. But at least then we're not getting garbage. Whereas Marvel won't cancel anything,
You
might
can't.
delay it a little bit, but then you then you get a substandard product.
Well, you can't stop them because again, they're too far connected.
Yeah.
So all you can do is say, well, we'll give it some space because of the hero fatigue, but
Right.
it's still coming out.
Yep.
It's still going to be on the. So for them to hit the emergency brake is a lot harder. They can't.
But someone, I don't know, it's almost like Iger, and hopefully Iger did go in and say, look, these budgets are ridiculous. You're not making the money to justify these budgets.
Yep.
Tone that shit back. So from a business standpoint, that needs to happen. From a creative standpoint, I don't know if it's because Star Wars has a story group, Marvel has a story group. I don't know if these story groups are just getting lazy. I don't know if they need refreshed. I don't know. But something needs to happen because these two franchises are not performing the way they should be. And that needs to be fixed. So,
Star Trek, like Star Trek's pretty good right now. I mean, say I don't think everything's perfect, but they've got a lot of things going on.
They don't saturate really.
Star
Wars, right now they are, but for the longest time they did not saturate. It was like, oh my God, there's a Star Trek coming out.
Yeah,
it's like everyone was like, wow. But now it's like, oh, Star Trek Below Decks, oh, Star Trek Picard, oh, Star Trek Discovery, oh, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, oh, and see now it's starting to feel like they're just like, okay, now you're just not even trying.
Well, but the difference is the quality has gone up because they actually brought in people that actually care about the property versus just hiring someone to do a property.
Well, that's just crazy talk.
Yeah, because
that's just crazy talk. You mean don't hire people to write your comic book movie that don't read the comics and don't like the comics?
Yeah.
They
got rid of that's why they got rid of Lord and Miller, because they were trying to do something that they didn't fit, and they brought in Howard, who is just a journeyman director who's really good. I didn't think Solo was a bad movie. I was hoping that eventually Howard would get a movie from start to finish, like Ron, we want you to do a Star Wars movie, and then get him a writer, work on the script, do and it's like I want to see what that does. Right now, it looks like the Howard we're going to get is Bryce Dallas. I say the daughter's
going to get her own movie,
yeah.
But I would like to see Ron do that as well. So I don't have a problem with Bryce's episodes, generally speaking. So I think she's a fine director. But like I said, after Solo, I was like, I really wish Ron would get a whole movie all to himself. Not just a trauma center patch job. Yes. Which is kind of what that movie was.
No, that 100% was.
So that movie was lucky it was walking by the time it left the hospital. And it can thank Dr. Howard for that.
Yeah, it was Jeremy Renner after the cat attack.
Right? Did you watch that? Did you watch that interview? Man,
I did.
That is insane. Go watch that, by the way. You can stream it somewhere. Diane Sawyer's hour-long interview with Jeremy Renner. There you go.
And
that
Hulu.
is amazing. We love Jeremy Renner. Glad he's doing great. So, Craig, thank you for taking this Easter morning
to crap over Disney.
To crap all over. No, we're trying. People might think we're crapping on. We're trying to help them.
Out of love.
It is out of love. It's of love.
Because we don't know them enough to sit them down. We have to hope they watch this instead.
Exactly. And like I said, I hate sometimes to sound like part of that hate industry, but sometimes, even a blind squirrel finds a nut. And occasionally they're right on certain things, and there's a lot of nuts being missed over in Disney, so to speak, that they need to find.
I need you to play some Disney music just so the people at Disney will watch this, because they'll be upset that you borrowed their stuff. And then I am available as a consultant. Matinee Heroes at Matinee Heroes on Twitter. You can email, matineeheroes@gmail.com. I will happily come in for a couple of days and help you rewrite the ship on either one. Most likely Star Wars, but Marvel, I'm very happy to help out.
Oh, ditto. Call me and I'm there. I'm totally there.
They're just on the street to me. I'm actually within driving distance, and I can come on a daily basis.
I can Zoom call. I'm fine. Craig, tell everyone where you mentioned Matinee Heroes. Tell everyone where they can listen to Matinee Heroes.
Exactly what I just said. Everything. MatineeHeroes.com, at Matinee Heroes on Twitter. We're Matinee Heroes on Facebook. We're Matinee Heroes on Instagram. We're Matinee Heroes everywhere.
Not Manatee Heroes.
No, but we do sell Manatee Hero shirts,
which are awesome, by the way.
They are. I wish we could. Unfortunately, the artist has set himself aside after COVID. He's not. He didn't die, but he's not doing as many artists. So we're not doing as many shirts. So.
Oh, that's sad. It's good stuff. Well, thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it. Everyone out there, don't forget to follow the Visually Stunning Movie Podcast at vsmoviepodcast.com, Twitter and Facebook at VS Movie Podcast. You know how that works. And if you're watching us on YouTube, click subscribe. That would be great as well. So, Craig, take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I know we're going to be talking soon about
Highlander.
And I have over behind me somewhere the 4K release that I need to watch. So I can tell you in all its 4K glory.
I haven't seen it since it came out in like 80. I think the last time I saw it was in the 90s.
I cannot wait to talk with you about this. So who's with us?
Derek McCaw.
Derek McCaw
from Fanboy Planet. Yeah, this is good. I got you guys back together again. You guys have done an episode together before, and both of you are really good. So it's like, for me, this is not my movie. Alan picked this movie and then ditched. And so then I'm like, I'm going to need someone that actually knows and likes the movie, because I have not seen it enough to really enjoy it, because the main actor, Lambert,
Christopher Lambert.
Yeah.
If you'd like to go off French.
Lambert.
Not a fan? Go watch Fortress then.
Clancy Brown's in it, so I'm happy.
Right. Well, you can't go wrong with Clancy Brown and Sean Connery.
As
a Scottish Egyptian Spaniard.
Yeah. Oh, he's Egyptian too, huh?
He was born Egyptian. His character is actually Egyptian, posing as a Spaniard, played by a Scotsman with a Scottish accent. So yes, it's great. It's a wonderful film. I love it to death. And with perhaps Hollywood's greatest soundtrack, or second, depending if you're a Flash Gordon fan. So.
Oh, it's going to be a fun episode.
Yes, it is. And on that note, Craig, thanks again, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.